Welcome back to another Habs Nation podcast show with the hockey coach, Coach Franchise, directly for beautiful country of Thailand on amazing great Sunday night in July. Is the 21st, 2024, fully an amazing great month of the July so far. Are you ready to rock and roll? Because we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens tonight. And of course, the big subjects about Demidov. What happening to him is possible Montreal can get Demidov before the big upcoming season. We're going to talk about this. And of course, a couple of news around the Montreal Canadiens. One of them is Rafael Harvey-Pinard. Now, look like now the player from the Montreal get hurt during the summer. Not the good news. We're going to talk about him. And then we're going to talk about the top six winger. Who do you put on the second line? There will be another subject tonight. We have more subject, honestly. You're going to rock and roll tonight. We have a lot of great talking about the Montreal Canadiens because we only talk about Montreal Canadiens right now 2 times per week, the Sunday night and the Wednesday night. Don't miss Sunday night. Why? Wednesday night because it's going to be Christmas in July. So what we do in Christmas in July? Well, first of all, we have Santa Claus Enortap is going to be with us. And then we're going to, of course, get some kind of prediction for the upcoming season for the Montreal Canadiens. And Enortap is going to bring all the presents for Marko and for the rest of the team. Possible Michael Devano join me live during the show, during the one show during the week. We still going to carry on approximately 3 shows per week for the last week of July. Following after that, we are back normal. So we're going to increase a little bit more show until we get a little bit more into the NHL for the season 24-25. I'm going to increase in the number of the show. And don't worry, we don't go nowhere. This is the place you want to be when you talk about Montreal Canadiens. We try to bring the best contents about this. And of course, tonight, at the end of the show, and I apologize, I completely forgot last week. I was too busy with anything like that. But I want to give that show tonight our best friend. He is listening to us right now upstairs. It's Mr. André Robert Drouin, one of the best supporters of the channel for a couple of years. Passed away at July 14 last year in 2023. And then I'm going to, at the end of the show, usually I do a kind of end of the show with fun thing, but tonight we're going to review the video of André Robert Drouin at the end of the show. So hopefully he's listening us every time we turn on the switch. He was a big fan of the Montreal Canadiens, so hopefully he is still there. That's what we got, and then I can wait to see each one of you again Wednesday night. So less further ado. Welcome back. They are back right now in the green room. Can't wait to talking about the Montreal Canadiens. And I'm talking about who? Mr. Enortap and, of course, Mr. Marko Larrabee are back in the house tonight.
Hey,
Hello,
Coach. Really sorry to hear about Andre. That's really too bad. Good for you to spend a little time honoring a longtime supporter. One question I have for you, though, is if Enortap is Santa Claus, does that make me like an elf on a shelf or reindeer? Like, what am I?
No, not at all. It's just Enortap. We just need a Santa Claus for one in July. So you'll be fine.
Okay. I'm getting ready already.
There you go. I knew he was already. He just cleaned up his Santa Claus. He did very well during the month of December last year, but now he needs to be ready for the one in July. So we have a few people guys knock the door. We have Martin Bazinet. We have for you knock the door. We have Patrick Lewhite, Gary Conroy, Dan Asham for Winnipeg is in the house. Patrick is still hanging with, of course, Otani and the baseball. Make some money. Bob's our uncle Z is in the house tonight. Z like zero. And then we have also something. We have Bob Ultraman, but that's another subject. The Bunny House is in the house. Maurice Robillard from Thailand with Roy, both of them. Maurice is going to visit me in the beginning of August, so I'm going to see another of the Hockey Nation Show. Welcome back. Joseph Phillips is at the top of this. Welcome, everybody. Don't forget, please, to click on the like. And let's further do right away, guys, to talking about the Montreal Canadiens. This is a 90-minute show, and we're going to rock and roll all night long. So the first news is the injury of Rafael Harvey-Pinard. So let's start with Marko, who will give us a little bit more update about that situation.
Yeah, bad news for our HP guys. Like, apparently he was playing a scrimmage game with some AHL players or something like that. So not exactly sure all the details, but looks like it's a lower body injury. There's some reports that it might be the same leg that he had issues with last year. So not great news. He has a precarious, kind of situation last year of his deal too, right? So you feel bad for the guy. Like I think most Habs fans would agree that he's a very hard worker. Has really kind of earned his way. Wasn't really drafted. He was drafted as an overager, and so it's a good story. You just kind of feel bad for the guy because he worked really hard. And so, hopefully he can kind of rehab pretty quickly. I'm sure it's going to bite into his off-season training routine. So, not a great sign for him. But like anything else, it's next man up. If he's not able to be ready and make the team, then I think Montreal has a lot of bottom six options. So not the end of the world for the Montreal Canadiens, but you feel bad for the kid.
Yeah, sorry about that. Plus, we have to add he's on a final year contract, so this is not like you want to play your final year contract that way. But again, we don't know yet the longevity or his injury, and hopefully it'll be quicker, faster, be ready for the training camp. Good news, Montreal signed Alex Barry-Boulet as a UFA, so if something happened to our HP a little bit longer, but at least Montreal have a cover up with Alex Barry-Boulet from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's move on for the next one. And we have Pascal Vincent. We talked a little bit earlier. He got hired by Laval Rocket, but I would like to have a little bit and 1 minute each of you. What bring Pascal Vincent for the Laval Rocket and inside the Montreal Canadian organization? So let's start in with Enortap on that one.
Well, I think overall it was a pretty good pickup for various reasons. I mean, the only thing that you can sort of make a case against is, how well will he deal with a lot of the youth? There was some rumbling in Columbus that the relationship between, and again, this is just hearsay. Obviously, we're not there, but that the relationship between some of the younger kids and players and the coach was not great. And I don't think it's a big concern if you look at his past record with where he's been, especially in the queue. He's always been very, very responsible and fair with all players. So I think it's something critical to have on Laval a coach that has some kind of experience, and he's had it at various levels. So overall, I would say it's a good pickup for Laval.
Marko.
Yeah, like I don't buy into this concern too much about the whole thing with young players. Like the bulk of his NHL or hockey coach experiences working with young players. The situation that he found himself in Columbus last year, definitely not ideal with the whole Babcock situation. Having to swoop in, I think he probably got hired like 1 or 2 days before training camp. So not really too much of an opportunity for him to put his stamp on things. And you can't really forget the context in Columbus. Kaikalainen was under a lot of pressure to get some results. So when it comes to personnel decisions, like players like Kent Johnson and Yurchek and some of the players, I put that more on the GM. That's more of a GM decision as to whether you're going to sit young players. And so I don't know if that's really a coaching decision more so than a organizational mandate that he was given to do that. So I'm not too concerned. Like to me, this is a great hire. Montreal has to invest in this position very heavily because of all the young prospects that are going to be in Laval. So I think it's a great hire. So really excited and to see kind of what he can do with that group.
Great point about that. Of course, Vincent bring experience, and then if something happened, he could be the cover up of Martin Saint Louis. We don't wish this for Martin Saint Louis, but for me, Vincent, create a lot of young players for the organization of Winnipeg Jet. That's when I really focusing him when he was the Manitoba moves. Look about what happened with Kyle Connors, example. And I can go all the way with some other new Mason Appleton, Lowry. It's another one over there. Cup, Andrew Cup left now. And you put this all together, he was really effective with the Manitoba, and that's what we're looking for, Montreal Canadiens. The good news about Montreal Canadiens also is they have a really big staff of development players coaching. So it's not like only Vincent, but he just bring for me more the security of his experience. And he's been there. He coached in the American Hockey League. He know exactly how the American Hockey League works. And it's about development and the improvement of each players. And the outcome of the team to make the playoff, not make the playoff, it's not what they are targeting. And I think they have Vincent behind the bench. That would be a plus for the Laval Hockey for upcoming season. So we welcome everybody else that pop up for you, Randy Walkman, Bonnie, like I mentioned. Welcome back. And hopefully what's happening with the rest of the people like Patrick continues to deliver. For you, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. For you, he was great, active on the chat many times. He leave always the comments, by the way, I want to congratulate like a couple of people in the chat. I don't want to mention their name, but the people leave me comments every day on my daily news. You have no clue, guys. Some people write me like a chapter, and this is really amazing to see that they take a time to write everything about the video or a specific subject. And like I said, every day I get 2, 3 of them, and I try to reply for all of them. But it's great to see people are really involved with the video per day. So don't forget, every day we deliver a daily video about the Montreal Canadiens, and the poll question at 10 o'clock p.m. Getting very hot about that one there. So thanks everybody. Bob and Born to have it in the house tonight. Welcome back. We can now show the video. We're going to cheat a little bit. Don't tell anybody. Marko Hage, dream come true. So, Marko, give us a bit more about this because that's really, you bring that. I watch many times. I tried to mix, I'll be honest with you, I mix 2 videos together. And you're going to see only the first part. But I got blocked by NHL after the first part, so I did not use on my channel. I don't want to use tonight. I removed the music, everything like that. But you can see when he was prepared to go at the NHL draft. So, Mr. Marko, give us a bit more information about Marko Hage.
Yeah, it's that time of the year, Coach, where we're starting to see some really cool behind the scenes footage coming out from the draft. I think we're all eagerly waiting for that annual kind of behind the scenes view from the draft that Montreal usually does. But there's a really nice video that came out, which shows Michael Hage right before his name was called. So leading up to his pick, and you can hear him talking to his mom. They caught it on microphone saying, "Do you think that they take me here? Do you think they'll take me here?" And it would be an absolute dream. And then boom, Montreal takes him. Him and his dad were both huge Habs fans. So what a dream come true for Michael Hage. His fondest memory, I think he mentioned, was Montreal coming back down from 3-1 against Toronto. I think that's all one of our favorite memories. So I can definitely relate to that. But just a really nice kind of behind the scenes, footage, and just a really, really tough year for Michael Hage. So really great to see him kind of have that moment with his family, and really good that they were able to capture that on video and on microphone, and then share it with the fans, right? So really nice move by the Canadiens there.
You want to add something, Enortap?
No, I was just going to say it was very well done. I enjoyed looking at it and seeing the emotions that poured out from the entire family, not just him. And more importantly, I think in one depiction they captured, mentioning the father, and this is exactly fulfilling his final dream come true. So it's amazing, and hopefully he'll be up with the team in a couple of years.
I'm sorry about that. That's so for me when I see that work with many young players, behind the sport, they have a normal life like you and me and everybody else in the chat, right? You have your wife, you have whatever is your situation. Same thing with them. Whatever they have a young players maybe going to play in NHL, they go through the process like anything as 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, all the way to the NHL draft where the dad, the mom sacrifice time and money for the kid, for the love. And to see that situation was really because he lost his dad. So this is really a touching moment for Michael Hage family and his mom and his brother. By the way, his brother is pretty good. Play already on the AAA program. He's going to be on the OHL. I think he was drafted, by the way. So that's something we have to follow up for sure. Let's move on. Before we talk about Demidov in the next 3-4 minutes, guys, I want to bring something. And Montreal Canadiens announced they signed Zachary Emon, goaltender, draft by the San Jose Sharks 2018 sixth round. Never been in the NHL, honestly. Going to get a contract with the 12-year Lions and the East Coast Hockey League. Well, at the end of the day, is a backup if ever they need something in American Hockey League. Someone get hurt. So Zachary Emon returned with the 12-year Lions for the second year. Before we go to Demidov, I have one question about this one. And we're not going to talk about the trade, but do you think Montreal Canadiens are going to trade Justin Barron, Philip Mazar, Jordan Harris the next couple of weeks? And which one you think it would be leave first? You don't have to give me a Barron for any specific forward, any specific return. But what do you feel is going to happen with Barron and Mazar and Harris? A lot of rumor around those three players and the social media. So in our tap, I'll open the door with you, followed by Marko, and then we'll talk about Demidov.
Yeah, and really to a certain degree, those things will go together because, as we know, it's no secret that I think Hughes is trying to get a top six player, a scorer perhaps, or a very good prospect that's ready to assume NHL role immediately. It might not be top six, it might be top 9 to start off with, and then hopefully we see how that emerges. We know that there's a clog at defensive spots, so I definitely anticipate that something will get done. But really, there's no rush, right? Hughes is not going to make a trade just for the purposes of making a trade and getting rid of a prospect on defense just because they have too many defensemen. That would be silly, and it wouldn't be managing your assets properly. Of course, he's going to wait for the proper player or players to come along. It has to be obviously a trade that is relatively fair for both sides. I mean, we might end up paying a little bit more than we want, but again, that's not surprising given the fact that we have those assets. So I truly believe that something will be done before training camp comes around. I think right now things are slow around the entire league. People are on holidays. Agents are talking with their players as well. It'll get done, but it might not be right away.
Marko?
Well, guys, I think that there's a reason why these three players are the ones that are on most people's lips, because they're the most obvious, right? Like, we know that Justin Barron, well, first of all, he's not signed yet, so that's something that needs to get resolved. But Justin Barron, we know he's maybe the odd man out on the right side, hasn't really shown it consistently at the NHL level. Machar, I think he had not a super convincing step last year in the OHL as an older player in the OHL. In my view, just a little bit over a point per game as a 19-year-old in the OHL. You expected a little bit more for a first-round draft pick. And then Harris, I think very serviceable, guy. And so I think the reason that fans and media often include these players is because they're the obvious ones. Now, the problem is that Ken Hughes has pretty much shown us that he's not really in the market for somebody for like a depth player, like a Daniel Sprong or, a player that is going to play maybe on your third line. He's looking for a top six forward. So I don't know if any of these guys really get you there unless you bundle them. And again, it's very rare that you see trades where, maybe on your PlayStation, like Mark Bergevin used to say, right? Like you can bundle a whole bunch of lesser assets to get a really good asset. And, sometimes there's teams that, are looking for volume because they have not a lot of depth in their prospect pool and they're looking to just create more depth. So, will one of these players move? Like, again, there are the usual suspects and they're kind of the ones that logically you think would move. But if Hughes is really targeting a top 6 player, I'm not sure any of these players, unless you're combining them with something more substantial, is going to get you there. So could one of these get traded? Maybe. But, I wouldn't hold my breath that they're going to be getting you the asset that we're all thinking Kent Hughes wants to get. Right. So we'll see.
But I think, Marco, it would be a prospect that's ready for the NHL. I think that's the difference. I agree with you. It might not get you a younger but established NHL top 6 player, and that won't get the job done. But I think it'll get you the kind of players that we've been talking about for weeks right now, and there's a handful of them there. I mean, not just one for one, of course. You'd have to obviously put more into the deal, but I think it gets it done.
I don't know, man. Like it's let's just use let's say we're talking about Natchez, right? Like, so Carolina, they're going to be looking for an established NHL player that can come in, and so the value's got to be equal, right? So some of these teams, they're not going to be interested in futures, right? Sometimes they are, right? Because you can always flip a first round pick or whatever. It's an asset, right? But a lot of these teams, they might just be looking for equal value in terms of the quality, not quantity of prospects. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible. There might be some teams that are interested in getting quantity, but it's more the exception than the rule that teams are looking to trade a high quality potential top 6 or established top 6 prospect for a bunch of depth players. And that's what we're talking about here, guys. Like Justin Barron, Jordan Harris, they're not top 4 defensemen, in my opinion. Again, things could always change. They could take a steep, change in their progression over in the next years. And, we've yet to see anything from Philip Machar to show that he's going to be a top 6 NHL player. Even I think on our list earlier this summer, guys, I think we had Machar as a bubble NHL player. Our own analysis of him was we're not sure he's even going to be a full-time NHLer, right? So, and guys, this is the we hear the argument a lot saying, and I think it was for you saying in the comments just earlier that, you have to be patient and continue to evaluate these prospects. And yes, like I get it, but the longer you take to evaluate players, all the rest of the NHL is also evaluating them too, right? So sometimes it's good to sell high. Again, the team itself should be way ahead of the curve of understanding what they have versus other teams, right? So hopefully they're able to analyze their prospects and understand who's going to be a fit, who's not. But so there's 2 factors, right? Waiting. Again, you don't want to make mistakes and you don't want to rush things, but again, you could see the asset devaluate just because of the fact that they don't progress the way that you want. And then one thing that we've talked about here too is that if you wait too long, not only is there going to be a jam with your left-handed D, but now they're going to start to, get off their entry-level contract and they're going to be no longer waiver exempt. And now you're going to be in a position where you're starting to lose assets for way under market value. And that's just really bad asset management, guys. Like if you spent a first-round pick for Machar and you end up, just losing them on waivers, or if you drafted 3 defensemen with 2nd-round picks and you end up trading them for a 4th 3 years later, that's just bad asset management, right? So it's a fine art. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but sometimes you have to strike while the iron is hot with a player. And as we know, Kent Hughes likes to talk. He looks at things like a stock market, right? He likes to buy low and sell high. So I don't know.
We'll
and
see
again,
for
we're
Justin
in
Barron. Go ahead, Enortap.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, in all fairness, we're only discussing these 3 right now. I mean, there's at least 2 or 3 other players that come to mind that could come into the equation if you get a more established player in the trade in return. i.e. a Matheson thrown into that trade, could change the complexion very quickly.
Yep.
Sound good? Remember, the Dallas Stars pay a first-round pick for Nick Lundqvist for the New York Rangers. So if you think Justin Barron, his value is not good, you can see Barron is only 22, 23 years old. He's going to turn 23 years old. He's a right defenseman, not happen a lot. And if you look about the number of points he produced, the way he skate, and the way he first passed, you have a lot of good value about Justin. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get a top 10 NHL draft pick, but it could be a package deal if you're looking for. I think for me, it'd be a mistake for Montreal to trade Justin Barron. I think I would wait at the right opportunity. You have to see what's going on after that. Right now they don't have anybody on the right side. They have only David Savard. That's it.
So, Coach, do you feel that they will fill in that top 6 player through a trade then?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe that Hughes will fill in that top 6 player through a trade then?
I don't think so. They will trade anyone right now. They just wait. The only one I can see is just Josh Harris. Jordan Harris could be traded if it's necessary to open a spot on the left side. Otherwise, I don't see any trade from Montreal Canadiens. For Mezal, he take 2 more years to see what he look like overall. So will be really interesting about this. Remember, a lot of people, Justin Barron was traded for who? Enortap?
Justin Barron was who was
Marko?
Lehkonen.
Lehkonen, yeah, Colorado.
And what?
Second round pick.
And what you did with that pick?
They traded it.
To who? For what?
Was it Winnipeg?
No, it's for Newhook.
No.
Newhook.
No.
No?
Oh, no, for Michael Hage.
Exactly.
To move up.
On 26.
Oh, okay.
My point behind that, a lot of people say this is a bad trade. It's not good for Montreal with that. And I said, I just said, wait again what it looked like Michael Hage in the next couple of years before to evaluate the trade between Lehkonen and Barron. Yes, right now, not looking good. At the end of the day, I'm sure Lehkonen, he look like today, he will maybe keep him, but just want to share with you that story. I like to do all the kind of trees and all the, like Brent Kulak bring you who, Enortap or Marko?
Kulak was Edmonton for
Lane Hudson.
Was it that?
About that one over there. So very interesting. Sometimes you trade. People said that you trade a second round pick, third round pick's not going to walk in, but you can hit a home run sometime. That's happening. But the big subject of the night is Demidov must get right now. That's about get him right now. So we'll talk about that situation about Demidov. So I would like to hear from each one of you. So after, I'm going to start with you about Demidov. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What are you looking for? Do you think Montreal should get him and maybe should not get him? And what the reason behind your answer? I don't know Marko about that. I'm going to add if something like that. So don't forget, guys, click on the like. And for the people, come back in the house. Welcome back. For the new people, welcome in the family of the Hockey Nation. Every Sunday night and Wednesday night, we produce a video about them. We do a live show about the Montreal Canadiens. So don't miss those shows during the summer. Then after that, we do more shows during the winter time. Here we go. Sorry about that. A2 is in the house. We have for you A2. And it's all about the number tonight.
The alphabet.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a definite yes to answer that question. I think the quicker you can get him here, the more control you have in terms of direct contact with him, and also the development. I know that they have some eyes there as well, but it's not the same thing. And there's a lot of stories going around that now with Kuznetsov going back, and they know that Demidov won't be around. You question just how much ice time that he'll be receiving at the Russia level. So, to me, bring him over, see what you have. If he's good enough to make the team right off the bat, that'd be fantastic. It kind of solves things right away. But if not, at least you have direct control over what's his development is looking like, and addressing it immediately, so that it fits the organizational purposes a lot quicker than you need.
great question here by Tony the Mark, which is how many rubles to get Demidov? SKA, name your price. So if
With
anybody
Doesn't
knows
matter.
if anybody knows what the exchange rate is for the for the American or Canadian dollar for rubles, I'm assuming the exchange rate is quite favorable right now with the state of the Russian economy, but I could be wrong. So if anybody knows the
Molson
exchange
Molson will pay him off in beer. Don't worry, or vodka, one
rate,
of the two. It
there
doesn't
you go.
matter.
Yeah. So yeah, listen, like I don't think are you gonna find any Habs fans that doesn't want Demidov to be in Montreal as of next year? I think if I had to guess, like Montreal's preference would be to have him here, but I think they won't be disappointed if he plays a full year in the KHL, right? So if he's able to actually play in the KHL, like Ken Hughes said, then they would be perfectly fine with that. But they will be slightly concerned if he's not going to be playing in the KHL. So Montreal only has so much control in the situation. um, the one thing that you have to think of, that, what would the jump be from coming from the MHL all the way to the NHL, especially considering that right now Ivan Demidov isn't really able to have a full summer right now because he's still injured with that knee injury, right? So let's say for whatever reason Montreal was able to secure him and bring him over. There's still some question. I'm not saying that they would start him in Laval, and I don't think they would, but maybe you would look at them. Maybe it would be smart to do kind of what with Anaheim did with Leo Carlson, which would be to do like a load management thing with him and just make sure that he's integrating. Don't throw him off the deep end, right? Like I think you want to, like, whenever you bring a good player in, you want to give him the opportunity to play with good players. So I'm not saying start him on the fourth line and all that. Like I think play him with good players. I don't hate the idea of load management, especially if Demidov hasn't had the ability to train all summer and be really ready to make what is still a pretty big jump, guys. Like jumping from the junior, league in Russia to all the way up to the NHL. I know we're all very confident with his skill level and everything, and I'm not doubting that he would be an impactful player in the NHL. But I wouldn't be against the idea of, like I said, them doing some load management with him. Maybe you only play him once every 2 games, to see how things go. I'm curious, guys, like how many games does the MHL play? Like under 50? Like it's like 40 something games
I believe so. I believe
regular
so. Yeah.
season. So it's similar to an NCAA, right? Like, so this kid's never really played a full, it's not like that's the advantage of major junior hockey that they're playing 70 plus games, so, and there's travel, and I'm sure the travel in the MHL is not great too, though. It's not like they have luxury airlines and you're traveling to pretty cold and dark places in Russia, although I guess you can compare them to Saskatchewan or, some smaller towns in Western Canada.
Easy. It's not that
In
bad.
terms of, in terms of weather, like I'm sure there's more subways and nice restaurants
Like Ilya
in
said,
towns.
I don't want him beside Kuznetsov and
Exactly.
together.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, for sure. Like, well, and guys, just to be clear, there, Kuznetsov has not signed with SKA yet, right?
Not
There's a
yet.
rumor that he's going to, but he hasn't signed
Yeah.
yet. He still could, like,
You will.
it's not impossible. He could, like, I think probably the reason that they haven't done anything yet is he's hoping maybe to get a shot with another NHL team, maybe at a lower contract, right? So it's not impossible. You might have a team that decides to take a chance on him still in the NHL. So we'll see, but not official yet with SKA for him.
To
Yeah.
add on that one for me, it's more about okay. So they have a lot of great news behind that. First of all, he's still on a rehabilitation. He's now at a training camp, right? The camp is already started at CSKA. So that would bring example like the next 2-3 weeks, you get a little bit a better view of what could happen with Demidov. Before the season starts with the Montreal Canadiens, you will know if he's going to play with CSKA for the upcoming season. You will know he's going to be with VHL. You will know we will punish him to send him to MHL. He's on his final year contract. He's not going to get any extension from what we heard the rumor. So if you put about
Right.
this, if we put X dollar check and send this to the CSKA with a case of the vodka bottle of vodka together, uh, they would get, example, like $3 million USC from Molson, right? Rumble, I don't know how much is it. Or CSKA say, you know what? We don't want this, and we're going to lose him. So, do you prefer to have a money or keep him? He's not going to play a big role inside the CSKA to become a better team at the end of the day. Why? Because the coach
Right.
over there, Rodenberg, is not used his rookies player. He play all the veterans. If you put ever Kuznetsov inside that team, that push him on the full line, and those players play about 7, 8, 9 minutes, 10 minutes per game. He's not going to be on the X special team every time that. Whatever who they are. It's been that way for years. Look happening with Mishkov. They never use Mishkov. They sent him to Sochi for the last 2 years. And so
Yeah.
him his final year, he cannot be loaned to any team in the KHL. This is
He
another
could be
problem.
traded.
I'm
He
sorry,
could be traded. Couldn't he be traded to another KHL team though?
but I don't see why
He
they would
could.
trade Demidov, right? So
Well, because they could.
yes, they
Yeah.
could.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know the
the
KHL,
problem
but
is
like
they won't invest, Marco. They won't invest in the proper development that he needs, simply because they know
oh,
that he's
what I'm
not going to be
saying,
there for the long run, right?
I get it. No, I understand what you mean, right? But if one possibility that people haven't, so yes, I understand, coach. He can't be loaned out like Michkov was to Sochi, but if there's another team that doesn't have the depth that SKA has, they could trade for Demidov, and maybe I don't know what kind of draft they have. Like, do they have like an entry
But
draft
usually,
like
Marco,
similar?
a lower team like Lone, like Sushi, Viton, they're not going to trade for Demidov. They don't have enough. They don't have anybody to give to CSKA. So
But they might
it's
have
like
money too.
I don't know. It's like I don't know. You took like San Jose, trade with for McDavid, example. When I said that, what they have to in return for McDavid, others don't have anything. So that's my point. You understand when I tried to say they don't have enough to
It's,
give back to
but it's
CSKA.
different.
So I don't see that kind of
But
trade.
like we said, it's different, right? Because if SKA is doing that, they know that the player has less value because everybody in the world knows that he's not going to be staying next year, right? So if at least like if you're making the argument, well, hey, SKA might be willing to let him go to Montreal for $3 million because they might as well get something for him, right? All I'm saying is that getting something for him is not just limited to Montreal. They could also trade him within the KHL for money or for another player or for whatever, So again, it's impossible to know at this point, guys.
Yeah.
I think what we're sure about though is that if Montreal's not 100% confident that his development will be well suited by playing in a bad situation, that they're going to be very aggressive to fix that. I don't think they want to see another situation like David Reinbacher last year, where the situation that he was in was just really, really not beneficial at all for him. They just don't want something like that for Demidov. So, if, like you said, Coach, we'll wait and see kind of what happens. It's not looking like he's going to get on that roster. So, I think we all know that like Jeff Molson is not going to be hesitant to spend a little bit of money to if it's the right thing for the team.
Yeah, but that was being my next point about the Rebecca case, what happening to him, right? So that would be another red flag for the Montreal Canadiens. At the end of the day, for me, I would prefer to have
Yeah.
Dimitrov. I really like the way you explain about Leo Carlson, right? But I would prefer to have Dimitrov under the management of Montreal Canadiens right now, and they can develop him properly in the right way, and that would give him because you know when you move from one country to another country, right? I did that a couple of times. It's new language, it's a new coach, it's a new teammate, it's a new team, it's a new city. And you have a lot go around, and it's not easy your adaptation to go from that area and then to play on the ice and the pressure come with. Like David Rebecca example, move from Cleveland back to Laval and boom, boom, hotel, everything like that. So, and then they have to find the people. I think it would be good for him to find a Russian family people that can speak Russian language to helping him the development. For me, I would not wait. Bring him in this and whatever it is. Could start with Laval. Could be for me. I don't care where he played with Laval Montreal. It's more about his development. Have a better, quicker, faster adaptation to be in the North America style, and the eyes also is under small short eyes everything. So put this together, I think it will be a benefit for Demidov as our hockey player, and also for the Montreal Canadiens. And you talk about the money going to lose, but he's not going to lose anything. You're going to have about he's going to double his money on the revenue of sharing a jersey, everything like that, and the excitement. Think about this guy. If you get Demidov tomorrow, I make a video tomorrow that says Demidov is in Montreal. I'm telling you right now, that would be the most excitement happening to the fans of Montreal Canadiens because they will want to see Demidov around that part of there. That's part of the Montreal Canadiens for me to get the money back from the CSKA. And think about this, Marko. You're the general GM of the CSKA, and I send you $3 million, example, and going to lose that player there, and he's going to play on the 4 line. Why not to accept the money? We don't know the deal with Michkov, by the way, with the team, right? We don't know what the NHL accept or they don't accept. That those road guys is going to be established and mentioned and anywhere. So and a lot of things we don't know yet behind that. It's easy to do a proposal like that and talking in the chat and me and right now, but you have other complications come with that part, Marko. But I don't see why Marko CSKA and Enortap, why they would keep him the way we just talking about.
So listen,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think the answer is simple. Does Montreal want him? I think the answer is yes. Does SKA would they be open to profiting from him since they know they're going to lose him? The answer is also yes. Now you nailed it, Coach, and I think we talked about this when this first came up. I think we talked about this in the stream. The NHL has come out when the Russian Hockey Federation and the KHL, basically changed their agreement and are the KHL is basically separated itself from the IAHF. Well, the first thing Bill Daly came out and said is the NHL still will respect contracts from other leagues, right? He said it right away. And like we talked about, I think I was with Frank on the show when we first learned about it, is you're right. We haven't exactly heard what if and what Briere gave for Michkov. Like, we don't even know if that's the case. And if you're the NHL, if you're Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, or if you're part of the board of governors, this is a very slippery slope, right? Like, you don't want to establish some type of precedent where all of a sudden an NHL team has to pay ransom essentially to get their player that they've drafted every time from the KHL, right? So there's more that goes into this than what Montreal controls, which is the first thing I said is Montreal doesn't necessarily control the situation. So I'm sure that we all agree that if there's a possibility for him to come over and Montreal is able to do it according to the NHL, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do it. It would be crazy not to. But we just don't have all the information. So we can hope. We shall see. We will keep a close eye on it for you here on Hockey Nation. We're on Twitter every day looking at all the stuff. So that way you don't have to be as nerdy as us and spend hours a day following other hockey Twitter accounts to keep up with all that information.
Enortap, want to add something?
No, I agree with that assessment. I think it's, like I said before, I think it's more yes than no. Money is not really an issue. It's only the precedents that it might set moving forward in the NHL, and it's something that, as it unfolds year after year with Michkov and now Demidov and other top Russian picks, the NHL is gonna look into it a little bit more. an optic to try to remedy the situation, because they don't want it to turn into some kind of bartering system or ransom that will put the NHL in a bad light, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. The only other thing I would add is, I mean, the with Reinbacher, unfortunately, that was a slightly different situation. Unfortunately, he was more a byproduct of some circumstances that didn't go well during the year, like the fact that the team did not do anywhere near what they anticipated at the beginning of the year. So it was a bad team to start off with. He had initially, there were some concerns with his knee, if you recall, so he wasn't being played as much in the beginning. But that sort of sorted itself out. But as we mentioned, it did sort of perhaps affect his development a little bit, and he's much better served coming to Laval, North America, and getting his development out of the way with the Rocket.
Great
So
point
I've
about
seen
this.
the comment here.
Enortap.
I see a comment from Joseph. So Mitchkov already set a precedent. So that's what we're saying, Joseph, is
Yes
that we
and
don't
no,
Yeah,
know.
but
because remember,
We don't know.
that deal was
you
before the
don't know
agreement, by the way, between the KHL and
exactly.
the RFH.
IHF,
Ah, yeah,
International Hockey Federation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So now they
yeah.
have a new agreement where they are become independent. The KHL now they can do what they want, and that will open more door to have some kind of negotiation between the NHL team and the KHL. And we don't know yet what the NHL and they're involved with those kind of rules, everything like that. One more thing, someone said it, Jimbo said, remember, Montreal does not want to hurt the KHL league and the KHL make some kind of the bad situation. They still have 7 players drafted by their team, play over there. Two of them, of course, the goaltender Volunkin and the Konishov, right defenseman, where I have really a lot of great skill about this. We know Konstantin Zabolev, but that's and is it Alexander? He will never make the NHL, and he's never going to be in a contract with the Montreal. But we'll see what's happening about that. So, following that situation, I know the Charles will be very interesting to hear that. My next question, and Demidov, center or a winger?
Here we go.
Interesting.
Marko, we're
This
going
is
to start with you, and following by Enortap.
Okay.
This is very interesting, Coach. So, if you've been watching our show over the last couple of weeks, I've been really concerned about, the situation with Montreal's depth at center, right? Everybody seems to, and I'll say it again, I love Kirby Dach, and I hope that he plays a full season and he turns out to be a great second line center. But again, looking at the Montreal depth chart and where we are in the rebuild, it's really one of the areas that I think has the biggest question marks is do they have enough? Do they have a second line center to play behind Nick Suzuki? So we talked about different options there, right? So we've even talked in the past that could Slafkovsky play center, right? Because Slafkovsky is a very smart two-way player, plays the right way, plays on the right side of the puck, has good skating, can cover the ice, is big, So I think it's not crazy for Montreal to look at alternatives internally for that. Demidov, I think, easily can be in this discussion as well. The potential to play center. We know that he, in an interview, I don't know when the interview took place. I think it's within, since the draft. He said in an interview that he would be just as comfortable playing center as he would playing the wing. And as a matter of fact, he likes playing center because you can see the ice more and you it helps with his vision and all those things, right? So that's a possibility. Now, what makes Demidov, what makes his style somebody that would be a good center iceman? Well, we've seen a lot of people report recently on other podcasts. I think it was Grant McCagg, and there's a couple of prospect breakdown videos since the draft that really, really kind of emphasize how good of a two-way player Demidov is. His advanced stats in the MHL, I think he was one of the best players in that league in terms of being on the ice for goals against. Like, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know they were very impressive in terms of his defensive play. To me, we've heard lots of comparisons between kind of what Demidov looks like. You know who he reminds me of now that I've watched a lot of video over, especially since the draft? Wait for it. Pavel Datsyuk. Kind of reminds me of Pavel Datsyuk in the sense that he's very shifty. He's very good at takeaways. Those are the kind of two major things about Pavel Datsyuk, is how really tricky he was one-on-one, but also how tricky he was at winning battles with his stick, being in the right positions and everything else. So which position did Pavel Datsyuk play, guys? He played center. So to me, I've heard some people compare it to Malkin and Kaprizov and players like that. To me, Kaprizov is not a good example. Like, Kaprizov is a much faster skater, you know, and I think has a little bit more of a shot, a little bit more electric in terms of his offense. But Demidov is more cerebral of a player than both of those guys. And Malkin is more of to me, he's a power forward, right? Like, you can skate, or he can deke around you, but he can just skate through you too, right? Of Evgeny Malkin. So this is very fascinating, Coach. Like, I feel passionate. The fact that the more prospects that we have, and I think Enortap, you've said this before, is the more players that you have that can play center, then the better that you are. I 100% agree with this. I think Montreal, if they're not going to be able to trade for another center, and again, this year is going to be very conclusive, right? If Dach turns out...
Thanks a lot, Ken. Went Ford. I like his name. He just went a Ford, Mr. Ken.
Went a Ford. There you go. At the All-Star game, he won a Ford. Thanks for joining, Ken. Welcome. So,
Welcome.
You know, Dach might silence all of these concerns if he plays 80 games this year and has 60 points and is really good two-way center. You know, great. I think we'll all be relieved and we'll all be happy. But worst case scenario, if Montreal were to go and get a center or try one of these players at center, like whether it's Slafkovsky or Demidov, you can always play Dach on the wing, right? And you know, he can always play center if needed. So I'm very excited by this prospect. But last thing I'll say before I pass it to Enortap is, if you're gonna do that with Demidov, I'm not sure you would do it in the first year. You might try Slafkovsky this year because he's had almost 2 full years in the NHL, but I'm not sure I would start Demidov at center in the NHL.
No. Enortap, want to add something?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that assessment. And I mean, I wouldn't start him either at center right away, although I wouldn't shy away from the odd opportunity where you just get a visual, because we're still in that phase where the winning aspect is new subscriber.
We have a two
Welcome,
Robillard
Sylvain.
in the family now. We have Sylvain and Maurice.
Welcome aboard.
What about Paul?
Yeah, so I was yeah, as I was saying, I think that you're in that position, that fortuitous position where, you know, necessarily you're not a team that's going to be vying or getting into the playoffs this year. So we talked about it before. You want to be in a position where you properly evaluate a lot of the younger player prospects that you have on the team. And that means that what goes along with that is also seeing what they can handle and what they can't handle. If you want to try them at center, or you want to try them at the wing, that's what happens. In terms of addressing where he can play, like, I mean, I think he can play either one. I'll be totally honest. I think he's got the attributes and the skills that can fulfill both positions. If you think of, you know, a solid NHL centerman, it's a player that, what does he do? He's got great puck handling skills. He's a great passer. He's got great vision of the ice, a strong skater. He can be a creative playmaker, can win faceoffs. That's very important as well. That's why I always like to have, you know, depth at center. That's very key to puck possession in my eyes. and is a team-oriented player in my eyes, right? And it forces them. I think, Coach, you mentioned it, or Marko earlier. It forces you to be much more aware of your surroundings when you're at center. So I think Demidov, from everything I see and read and have been told about him, that he possesses these skills. The only thing we have to see is how it translates on an NHL surface. But I would not hesitate to try him at center at some point, but not right away.
Can I address a couple of things, Coach? So in the chat here, so so just looking up, so first, I think it was Crooks that was saying that he's and trust me, like I get it, it is annoying to have to talk about Dach injuries, and we know it's not a chronic injury like Josh Norris, where it's the same shoulder that keeps getting injured. The good news with Dach is that we know that they are, you can call them freak injuries, right? Like first it was his wrist, then he hurt his back. And then last year we saw, that weird hit that he took and he ended up blowing out his knee when he came back on the ice, right? So they're not related. But the concern I have is not necessarily that he's always going to be injury prone. All I'm saying is that at this point in the rebuild, we've not seen Dach play center for a full season in the NHL. So we're not sure how competent he's going to be in that role. So all we're saying, Crooks, is if you're looking at the state of the assets that Montreal has, if you're looking at what question marks there are in terms of all the pieces that they have and what they need to build a roster that's going to be competitive to make the playoffs in a couple of years, it's hard to argue that center is not a question mark, because even if Dach is 100% healthy, I think I'm reasonably confident he has the tools to play center, but we haven't seen it, right? So I think it's reasonable to say that it's a question mark. Then I see some people saying that Slafkovsky absolutely stays a wing. Let me throw this at you.
Not necessarily.
If anybody in the chat was convinced that Caden Lindstrom should have been Montreal's pick and that he's going to play center in the NHL, let me tell you, my opinion is that Slafkovsky would make a better center than Caden Lindstrom would make in the NHL. Because in my view, Slafkovsky has way better vision, way better playmaking than Lindstrom has. So if you think that Caden Lindstrom is going to be a center in the NHL, I think Slafkovsky would make an even more effective center in the NHL than Caden Lindstrom, because he's not a north-south player. Slafkovsky, we've seen, yes, he has a decent shot, but he's going to have way more assists in the NHL than he does goals. And he's very good on both sides of the puck, has the skating to cover the ice. He has the size. He's strong on his stick. I don't think it's going to happen, guys, but it's not as crazy as you think. I think
no. And there were episodes we talked about it last year, especially before he got onto his scoring ways, and when he started to show that jump in his improvement is going on the first line. And we thought there were a number of times we said, why not try him at center? I mean, he's a big body, he skates well, he's responsible defensively, and he imposes a huge figure in front of the net as well, which is quite an asset to have, even as a centerman, let alone any other player. But it's not out of the world to think that he can play at that spot.
Coach is going to tell us why we're wrong. Go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead.
First of all, they trade a 13 overall pick, Nazar, for Kirby Dach to be a center. We want size, 6'4". When he played with Montreal, did very well. Right? Now you want to move Slafkovsky, a winger. We have a big size over there, 6'4", to bring on the center, second line, behind Suzuki. And now you're going to, who do you put on the top? You want to bring now Demidov on the center too. So, and
that's not what we're saying.
You would like
no.
the
Okay, let me
Demidov to be
clarify.
a center, or you will
Let,
try to get
let me clarify.
Sekeski to be a center in case Kubizak cannot put as a
Ah,
center.
see, that's the difference. That's the
But
difference.
that's the
So
point. Like
no,
they
no.
trade and they looking for Kubizak to be a center in NHL. That's what they
Yeah,
want
okay.
to do. They don't want to trade to make him a winger. About that, yeah, reason why Sekeski never played any game as a center so far. Why? Because they really believe the line, big body, 6'4", and the center over there. You have Sekeski on the top. Now you have Dimitar over there. Some point Caulfield maybe play on the second line with the Montreal Canadiens. Maybe it
Sure.
would be trade to get bigger winger. So you have the league is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So you have two winger over there, 6'1" and 6'4". You have the center right there, Kubizak at 6'4". And then you have Zuski where he played very well as a number one center. Maybe it would be a better and better after that. You have Caulfield can put a puck in the net. And then you have to add another one, what it could be. So for me, not at all. Stay what you have. Stay in the path. Don't try to move the lineup left and right every
Not
time.
right
That
away.
they are
Oh,
winger,
okay,
winger,
so
winger. They are center,
That's
let
center,
me.
not
center.
that's not the
Let's go for
suggestion.
that over there. Now you want to get Slavkovsky for
No,
winger to the center and Dak for the center
No,
to the
no, no, no,
winger.
no. That's not what
I
we're
don't
saying.
think that
So
was the
But that's what you
yeah, it's
just
not
told
the intent.
us all night.
no,
Now
no.
you
This is.
want
No,
to
no,
Dak
no,
Let me
no, no.
in
clarify.
case Dak cannot be a center.
Well, see, that's the difference,
Yeah.
coach. So I think we all agree this year you play Doc center all year long, unless you trade for a second line center who's better than Doc for whatever. If that happens,
Where
then that's
Michael
different.
Edge is coming. So
Whoa,
if
let
you
me
want
finish.
to
But let
Dak
me.
is not good
You're
enough,
jumping.
put this on the winger and put Michael Edge. Why to transform a winger as a center?
You're
This
jumping
is my
3 years
point.
Just
ahead, coach.
I
You're
don't see
yeah,
jumping
that.
that's
3 years.
It's like Mika
2 or 3
Ratanen.
years down the
The
road.
Colorado Avalanche have no center second line. Now you said
Yep,
Ratanen, he can play center. Let's move on
he
him
did.
behind
He
McKinnon.
did play center.
You now
He
you
did
He
play
did this
center.
destroy
year. Yeah.
you destroy your first line to fill up a spot. You don't have the second line. You remove Sekeski on
No,
the first line with Caulfield and Zuski to fill up the spot of the second line in case Kubizak cannot play as a center.
Okay, so can I finish my thought though from
Yeah,
before?
you
So
can go now.
again, you're jumping 3 years ahead, right? I think we all agree that for this season, you're going to play Doc at center all season. Hopefully, he stays healthy. We've said it here before. The biggest disappointment from last year was that Montreal wasn't able to have a full year to assess Doc in that position, right? So hopefully, we get that this year. And like I said, he might put this issue to bed entirely, and I hope so. I'm not saying I don't want it to happen. I love Kirby Doc. I want him to be Montreal's second line center. That is the ideal scenario. However, if that doesn't happen, if after this year they assess that it's not trending in a way where they think he can play that role, that he's better to play on the wing, then you have different options. You can either trade for a second line center, which to be honest, guys, I'm not sure Michael Hage will be a center in the NHL. And if he is, it's going to be 3 years from now. And we don't know if he's going to be a top 6 center. We don't know yet. It's way, way too early for Michael Hage. Way too early to start talking about that. So if Kirby Doc doesn't work out as a second line center, you have a couple options. You either trade for one, or like we said, you can try different options internally, whether it's Demidov or Slavkovsky. You could experiment with those guys. But I agree with you that you don't want it to be a Galchenyuk thing where you're yo-yoing the player back and forth for years. I don't want that either. You have to kind of pick a pony and pick a lane and go that way. Am I talking too much? Is that why you guys are smiling at me?
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just got a text. That's all.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, I can understand your point of view about that. I just feel like for me, I would not make any change. Follow the process, follow what they learn, what they are. I think that would be the right things about that one. If you want to add something before we move on, we welcome everybody. Tony is in the house, long time. Michael Convoyer is in the house, long time. The brother of Gary. And Helen from Newfoundland is in the house. Many people pop up. Don't forget, click on that. And finally, Simon, number 11, pop up also. And thanks for all the like we got so far. And NHL TH of the Islanders in the house. Welcome back, TH. Sorry about that, but it's pop up all the time. Anyway, guys, don't forget that we start this mail bag for the Hockey Nation and the Habs Nation. It's called the Ask Coach Frenchy at gmail.com. Send those emails. At some point during the next couple of weeks, we'll have a special show like the Friday night. It's a little bit more open up for have a good time the Friday night, and we're going to use a mail bag. Or one day I maybe do a Ad Daily News, Marko and Enortap, just about the mail bag. Or maybe we do a show called the Habs Summer Target sometime together. We can answer all those mail bag inside that. So you send that email at the Ask Coach Frenchy at gmail.com. And Hage Calabro is back in the house, ladies and gentlemen, about that one. The next question, guys, is about the missing piece, the top six on the second line. And I make a video about this, and I would like to share it with you what you think about that. And then I want to get your information, what it will be for the Montreal game. First of all, we know Sakaski and Caulfield Zuski play together on the first line. And possible. That's what he's thinking. Alex Newhook could be that, and they look at the right. Oh, we don't have anybody yet. Now, many of you said maybe, and Marko and Enortap, we know. They said Demidov would be a great fit over there. We understand that, but it's not the roster yet, so we don't want to assume something is maybe not going to happen. But what we have other winger can be at that spot, and that's the conversation for the next 5-10 minutes before we move on to the next subject. Who will be your players at that spot? And the people in the chat, where the candidates for me are Josh Anderson, Joel Mario Armia, Joshua Roy, and Brennan Gallagher. I put RHP before he got hurt, so I removed RHP. Or any other players inside Montreal Canadiens. So here we go. That's the question. And now we're going to start with Enortap. If I can follow back and forth. If I'm wrong, just let me know. But I think Enortap can pick it up there.
For me, the obvious choice would be Roy. I think that last year he was pushed in both a second and third line positioning, and I think he handled it very well at both cases. You look at Gallagher, I don't think that, given the lack of speed that he has and the fact that he can't sustain long times on the ice, that's going to be a fit. I mean, I'm not adverse to at least initially trying Anderson. We've said it before. Can he have a worse year than he had last year? I sincerely doubt that. Again, I'll knock on wood that doesn't happen. But I think there's only one way to go with him, and it's hopefully up. How much up, we don't know, right? But why not at least try him there? It's not like he hasn't been there before, and see where he goes. Armia would also be a good fit because of his size. He does a great job of protecting the puck and winning battles along the boards. He's got good vision of the ice. He sets up players very well. And the other thing you want to do in your evaluation is see if Armia is not part of your future and you're giving him some of that ice time on the second line, and he starts to produce at that level. Does he increase his value when it comes to trade deadline time? And that could be something that they might want to explore and build up on his tradability value as well. So I would go with Roy number one. Anderson, I would try for a short term of time just to see if he can return back to a semi form of what he used to be. Armia, I think, would be more reliable there. Gallagher, not really.
Yeah, guys, this is so hard to predict, right? Because it's all about chemistry and how the players are going to play together. You can make a case for pretty much all these players. I think most people would see that Gallagher is going to play in the bottom six, and you're probably right. But the only thing I'll say is that he had a lot of great chemistry with Newhook towards the end of the season. When Newhook was playing center, they did develop quite a bit of chemistry towards the end of the year. So my guess is that maybe all four of these players will will have will probably end up playing on here at some point as they kind of search for the right combination, right? But I think you can make an argument for each. I think so probably the answer is somewhere like look at what both Dach and Newhook bring, right? So Dach is a big body, protects the puck, not really much of a shooter. The coaching staff is all over him all the time to shoot more often, and we see how that works out. Players are just programmed to be to pass the puck to their teammates more so than shoot, and I think that's just kind of the way it's going to be with Dach. And Newhook has a good shot, but he's more of a north-south kind of like speed demon kind of player, but also doesn't shoot enough either. So I would probably be inclined to put a shooter here. And, to me, Gallagher is a shooter more than a playmaker. And Roy is a shooter. So I've had to guess. And again, Armia is very good, but I think Armia kind of duplicates a little bit what Dach is going to do. Like imagine all the down low puck protection that both Dach and Armia would be able to do together. But I would rather spread that out through my lineup and have Armia on a different line so that he can bring that to a different line rather than have my two best puck protection players on the same line. So I'm not sure Armia would be my pick there to start, but he could surprise you, right? Like it could work out. It's just one of those things you have to kind of see how the chemistry works. Long term, I think we all agree that none of these players should be in Montreal's top six. Maybe Roy, depending on how his skating gets better and whether he'll be able to kind of reach that level. He has that potential, I think, to do that. But I think in an ideal world, you would see both Roy and Newhook on your third line in the future when Montreal is going to be hopefully a playoff team. You're going to see both Roy and Newhook on your third line, and then you're missing Demidov and another player to play with them on that second line, and then you're really cooking with gas. So, Coach, your guess is as good as mine. Good candidates here. Don't discount Brendan Gallagher. Don't discount.
They're the
Brendan
best
Gallagher.
candidates we have at to date right now, Marco.
Exactly.
I mean, again, don't forget if we do get that trade and we do bring up we do get a top six score, that kind of settles things, because I would even go so far as to say, and I think you mentioned it as well, that Newhook shouldn't be on the second line. I think he's a much more effective player on the third line, be it on the wing or at center. That really doesn't matter to me. Yeah, given what we have there, you're absolutely right. I mean, my first instinct is to go with Roy. Gallagher, I don't see him even having the shot. I know you mentioned he's a shooter, and I agree with that, but I don't see him having that accuracy or that strength behind the shot anymore.
No,
he's more he's that hound dog in front of the net that will get those rebounds and get the cheap goal.
But he's more. I'm not saying he's an elite shooter, but he's a shooter. Like he will shoot before he passes, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I'm not saying that his based on how many hand injuries and he's had pretty mangled situations with his hands, right? So you can probably understand why his hands are not what they used to be. But yeah, Roy, I think we've seen he has a really good shot for sure. So for me, it would be between Roy and Gallagher.
Another good point about this is called for me musical chair. That's what we're going to get for the next cup at the beginning of the October, November. And that question came, guys, without knowing what could be added at some point the next couple of weeks. So if we add a player, that's changed completely what the scenario we talk about. But for what I have under my hands right now, I have Anderson, Amir, White, Gallagher. Martin St. Louis is really playing NHL. And he knows he will treat his veteran very well at the beginning. Feeling only about the rewards. Amir Gallagher get more the rewards to get that spot there. Welcome, Mr. Normand Verrier. Welcome in the house. Following this, Marko, I think Gallagher, my concern about Gallagher, if you play second line, you talk about what, 16, 17, 18 minutes per game. on TY. And I know he does not play on power play on PK, but still, Gallagher, if you put him over 15 minutes, this is why you're losing Gallagher during the third period, everything like that. So for me, I would not put Gallagher there. I think he have a great spot at the third line with right now. If I have my white template on my whiteboard, I put my name on the board. Gallagher, third line with that. Anderson, obviously, does not deserve to have the second line right now with the season he gets. Maybe later, but not right now. Now you have to come with Roy and Armia. And I will give you my final answer for that one is all depend on the training camp of Joshua Roy. Came back from an injury and maybe he want maybe protect Martin St-Louis, Joshua Roy at the beginning. I think Devorak, Gallagher, two players have many experience in NHL. Two players are really good on the defensive coverage of the game. Right, I know Gallagher is not like the like Armia, but I feel like they will maybe protect a little bit more Joshua Roy to play with two experienced players on the third line, where I don't have no problem with that, and put Joel Armia at the beginning of the season for what he brings and what he did during the season to give him an opportunity to play with a Dach and Newhook. If you think about this, that helping the defensive side of the game, the way he protect the puck could be tough to protect the puck. It's not easy to move Armia. He's a big body, 6'3". You have a 6'4". You have the speed when you hook. I think this is a good chemistry if you have a coach. Now, that puts Josh Anderson the 4-line. It is what it is, my friend. I said, you know what? We have a bad year last year. We go to restart. We have to go back at the bottom of the ladder, all right? And they go all the way one step at a time. And more you prove. But let's move on to the third line. If ever you have an opportunity, go to the second line. This is why I call this the musical chair. And if I'm the coach, maybe not the first game, but let's go with game number 10, 15, 20. You have no problem to moving during the games. Use some adjustment on the road or at home. Say, you know what? That worked. Let's move on now, Joshua Roy, or let's move on, Joel Armia. But the other four candidates, and I will go with now with Armia, Roy, and Anderson. And Gallagher will be my third line with Devorak at the beginning of the season. That's what we got. That's it is. And if you hope to make the playoff with Armia, guys, but it is what it is. So I don't see that, but this is a second line there.
One note, though, Coach.
Anderson. He got married this summer, Coach.
Yeah. But one thing, Coach, is if you look at the results of Dvorak, like Dvorak and Gallagher have played together on the same line for quite a few games, and it does not work. It does not work. There's I forget where I saw it, but there's a couple of people that have looked at the underlying numbers for when Dvorak and Gallagher play together. And I know in theory it looks like it should work, but it doesn't. They do not mesh well together. Gallagher, it's same thing with Anderson and Dvorak, doesn't seem to work very well either. So I get
Anderson
that
didn't work with anybody last year.
Well, yeah, so you can make that argument for sure. So, I get it. Like, ideally, I think you're right. Like, you want to keep Gallagher's minutes under 15 minutes, but I'm just not sure that you'll get good value if he's playing with Dvorak. So, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think you're 100% right, though, that you're going to see a lot of experimentation on that second line because there's a lot of interchangeable pieces, so it should be an interesting battle to see how it plays out.
Well said about that. That will be something we have to follow up for sure about this. We're not done yet. We have a 7 minute, but I'm going to carry on maybe a little bit later. We don't do a many show anyway. If you guys can get an extra 15 minutes, we're going to get there if it's okay with you. And the next one. Every day I do a video, guys, and today it was a video about if Madison is number one defenseman, Montebo number one goaltender, and if Madison number one defenseman. And they have a conversation, guys. I think it was for 15 minutes. I read everybody from 3 people, 4 people back and forth about Mike Madison. So I said, you know what? I'm going to bring that subject on the Tonight Show and see what's happening with the chat because this is great trend for the Montreal Canadiens. Trade, no trade. Defenseman number one is not. So let's go with that one, guys. And Marko, you're going to start on this one. Madison, do you trade him? But before that, do you consider Mike Madison as defenseman number one in NHL?
So, first question, no, I do not. I was watching your video, coach, and I wanted to jump through the screen. And so I'm glad you're giving us an opportunity to talk about it. So, I hear this argument a lot, right? Like, you can apply this argument to both Matheson and Gooley, right? So players, people will say, well, look at how many minutes Gooley plays against the opposing team's best players. Look at how many minutes like Matheson plays, like 28 minutes a game, and da da da. Okay, well, why is that? That's because Montreal chooses to do that. It doesn't mean that that is necessarily what they should be playing, or if they're actually performing at an ideal level in that role. So, is Matheson a number one defenseman in the NHL right now? Yes, because that's how Montreal plays him. But to me, I don't think that in an ideal scenario, you have Mike Matheson as your number one defenseman. Excellent number two or number three defenseman. Like if you were playing him, I think he can be a top pairing defenseman if you're playing him with an elite right-handed defenseman. Like if he was playing with Moritz Seider or a player like that, then he can be a top pairing defenseman. But I don't call him a number one defenseman. I don't call him that. In terms of whether you trade him or not, I am open to trading pretty much anybody if it's the right return, and if you're able to fill a position that is going to be very hard to fill. Now, one thing I'll say is that if you do trade Mike Matheson, then I think you immediately need to trade for another experienced defenseman to come support that young decor. So, even if it's somebody that's somebody that's gonna be playing on your bottom pair, just a little bit more experience, because you can't have 5 out of 6 of your defensemen being under 23 years old and less than 100 games experience in the NHL. That's just not healthy. So I'd be okay with trading Matheson if you can make him part of a bigger thing to get a top 6 forward, or like any other pieces that you think is going to help. As long as you're backfilling him with another veteran defenseman, he doesn't need to play 28 minutes. This veteran defenseman, just be a good presence to help with the young kids.
Enortap?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Matheson is a number one defenseman in my eyes either. I mean, if you look at it from a statistical point of view, I mean, he had an ideal year last year, but as we've said, think of the reasons why. Look at the amount of ice time that he had, the amount of power play time that he warranted and got a lot of his points off of the power play as well. I see him more as a complementary a defenseman to a number one defenseman, or more appropriately a second pairing defenseman with the league. Having said that, I think because he had that ideal year last year, I believe he finished ninth in defenseman in overall scoring. This is the perfect time to trade him if you get that opportunity. I understand the fact that you're creating a gap, and we saw last year, we had 4, sometimes 5 rookie defensemen in the lineup, and it creates problems. But that's the kind of time that these defensemen need, right? They need to sometimes make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and sort of grow from that to become not necessarily elite, because they're not all going to become elite, but they're going to become solid NHL defensemen, especially for Montreal. So yeah, is it good to have the experience? I mean, you still have Savard, and I think realistically he goes before Matheson does in terms of the trade deadline time, because he makes such a complementary piece to a team that's very, very close to winning the cup, but it's just missing that solid second or third pairing defenseman that can block a lot of shots and give veteran advice. He's won the cup. He's been there before. He's worked with a lot of the young players. So I think he goes realistically before Matheson does. But if the opportunity should arise, I don't think you hesitate to move Matheson. I think if it moves your team forward, then that's something you do, because I'd be very weary of him reproducing those kind of numbers that he had last year again, especially as guys like Hudson come up and start taking away some of your power play time. Logan Mailloux comes along and he's going to draw some probably on the second line power play. So he's not going to get those kind of points ever again. I mean, I hope he does, but I sincerely doubt it. Sell high, and hopefully it addresses a hole that you have in your lineup somewhere else.
Just a quick thing, Coach, before we move on. I forget who made the comment, but let me see here. Just want to give them credit. I can't find it, but basically saying we don't have anybody who can play the same amount of minutes as Mike Matheson right now, 28 minutes a game or whatever, right? My answer to that is that's okay. You don't need somebody to play 28 minutes. Why do you have to have? Why do you need a defenseman to play 28 minutes? Just spread the ice time like across all the three pairs. So if you have, your first pair playing 22 or 23 minutes, and your bottom pair is playing 16 minutes instead of 12 minutes or whatever it turns out to be, you don't necessarily need someone to come in and replace exactly what Matheson does, because I think we all agree that that's too many minutes for Matheson
Marko,
anyway.
before you move on, I'm going to ask you this question, then you can consider your subject. What will be your three defensemen? Pairing number 1, number 2, and number 3.
If you lose Matheson?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't have Matheson, then you can go with Gouli. So you go Gouli. Well, it depends what you're getting, right? So I would probably keep Savard to play with a younger defenseman. So maybe I might shock some people here, but to me, I think Reinbacher is probably a little bit closer to play in the NHL than Mailloux. But again, we'll see how the training camp is. So maybe you have Gouli and Reinbacher. Again, it's they're not going to be playing 28 minutes a game, right? Then as your second pair, you've got Hudson and Savard together. And then as your third pair, you've got Jackeye and Barron, or you can rotate out who's going to be on that.
That makes Struble becomes much more relevant now if Matheson is gone.
Yeah.
So what are your 6 defensemen?
So Gouli, Reinbacher, Hudson, Savard, Jackeye, and Barron.
So who
and
play
Harris
the right
is your
side?
7th.
You have you're going to have now 2 young
Savard.
defensemen, Hudson and Reinbacher, with not many minutes.
Yeah. Why? Why are they not playing many minutes?
But he never.
No, he's saying NHL minutes.
So you're going to use a Reinbacher on the second pairing, or Hudson second pairing, and then Jackeye, where he's going to play with Reinbacher, example, or Barron. Then you have Hudson Reinbacher or Hudson Savard, and then you have put Reinbacher on the first line.
That's what I said. I had Reinbacher with Gouli, so it'd be here Reinbacher.
Yeah, but now this is going to be bad for the Montreal Canadiens.
Again, you could also, like I said, I said if you're going to trade Matheson, you should trade for another veteran defenseman, hopefully like a right-handed guy, right? That you could play on your bottom pair. So if you get another bottom pairing, if you're not comfortable putting Mailloux or Barron in the lineup and you want a little bit more experience, then you can move Savard up with Gouli. Then you can move Reinbacher with Hudson. And then you can have Jackeye with a new veteran defenseman that's coming in.
Yeah, but Marko, if they move Matheson, it's with the intention, I think, that they're filling a forward spot. That would be my intention. Otherwise, you're just bringing in somebody else. You might as well not make the trade.
I'm not saying trade Matheson for a veteran defenseman. I'm saying if you're trading Matheson for a forward, then you can go and trade for another. You can trade or sign a veteran defenseman, not like somebody long term, just somebody to plug a hole for another year. Like I'm not saying Chris Weidman, but a Chris Weidman type kind of guy to come in and just play a year or two. That's if you feel that Reinbacher and Mailloux are 2 years away, right? But I think Reinbacher and Mailloux are pretty close, to be honest. So that's my assessment.
I'm going to shocking everybody. Mike Madison
Okay.
is going to sign with the Montreal Canadiens an extension contract following year. And the reason behind that is going to get about $4 million. He will fit on the template of the Montreal Canadiens as a second or third pairing defenseman. And
That would
what the
make
way
no
he play is a game changing. It's about speed. It's about transition. It's about moving the puck. Why? During that time, you develop your player behind them. You have a better way to develop Lennartson. You cannot expose a young man at 20 years old, never playing in NHL. So you know what? Go play 22 minutes tonight. You cannot play a David Rebacker, never play in North America, play only 11 games. So you know what? Go play 20 minutes tonight. Why you can play a Cooley on the right side when you're supposed to be on the left side over there? That part over there, you don't trade my Benison. You're going to regress. We're rebuilding forward, not backwards, because you try to get Mike Madison. The value Mike Madison is worst case a second pairing. We all know, and you mentioned, is a second pairing in NHL. You're not going to get a first round pick for in return for Mike Madison. It's not going
Well, it's
to
one
be
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Remember,
Okay. Hold on.
the development of the
But would you-
defenseman is at 26, 27 years old. Brendan Montour, what happened with him?
Well, you're going to lose them way before that, Coach. You
What?
can't. You're going to, if you're just holding on to like think about what you're saying. So if you're extending Mike Matheson, all these left-handed defensemen that are behind them, are you prepared to trade or lose them on waivers?
You
over
don't
the
have
next
many
2
behind
years
him.
after?
You have Lennartson,
Yes.
Adam Ekstrom, and Jekai.
And you have Struble.
Harris is not going to be
Struble
with
and
Montreal
Harris.
Canadiens. Struble is not going to be with Montreal Canadiens in 2 years.
Okay, well,
You're
that's
not
what I'm
going
saying.
to
Like,
build
Coach,
your line with that
Well-
part. Struble or Jekai have to get out. They will keep Jekai. Struble is going to
Okay.
be your
Yeah, but I
defenseman
don't-
number 7 and the back over there. You need
Okay.
But would you-
experienced
would you-
defensemen behind that. You're not going to play. Hey, you're going to leave at 25 years old. Look what happened with Buffalo. Power, Dalian, Biran, young player defenseman. You need some. Look what happened with Ottawa. They don't have any experienced defensemen in
What-
Ottawa. They struggle every year.
what did I just
Sanderson, Shabbat, I can go over there. They try to make harmonic. They have no leadership behind that. You need
did
to
I
be
say?
sure. If you're losing
You're
David
saying the same
Savard,
thing?
if you're
We're
losing
saying the
David
same
Savard, what kind of defenseman you going to get the next 2 years? All 23 years old
You're not
and
going to lose
younger.
both.
Well, that's
You're not going to lose
Coach,
both at once.
You're saying
I
exactly.
don't know if I would. Yeah, I don't know if
Go
I
ahead.
would attach. Would you attach? You said you're going to play Matheson. He's either as a second or third pairing defenseman. So if he's a third pairing defenseman, you're willing to give him $4 million and tie it up in your third pairing defenseman? Because I would rather have a youth there.
He's going
And
to
you
be
can
my
keep
second
Savard
pairing
if you-
defenseman, Madison.
Well, earlier we said second or third, right? When you said extend him. So I don't know if I would tie up $4 million, and that's assuming he'll go for $4 million.
Listen, like, I ultimately, Coach, we're saying the same thing. If you're going to trade Matheson, then I think you have to backfill him with another veteran defenseman. Because I agree, you can't have 5 of your 6 defensemen being under 23 years old, only playing under 100 games in the NHL. So I agree with you. If Matheson is going to extend for $4 million a year,
Let's just give you a number. I don't know. It could be 4.8. He's not going to get $5-6 million at the end. He's going to get 30 years old, 31 years old, and then he's going to get less point. He's a second pairing. Check all the players and the NHL defensemen at the second pairing.
well, the cap is going up, right? So you have to adjust the amount per year that a guy like that's going to
Percentage
get.
at the end of the day. So whenever he gets $4 or $5 million, you're going to have X percentage on the same percentage you get now. It's going to be in 2 years.
Okay. If you're not going to trade Matheson, in my opinion, if you're going to keep Matheson and extend him, you should trade Caden Gooley, in my opinion, because
Why? He's your best
Because-
defenseman value right now for the Montreal Canadiens. Why trade Caden
best
Gooley?
value, exactly, best value.
Patrick's
Exactly.
going to go nuts now.
Every episode, I have to say it at least once so that I
So
freak out.
here's the best forward, Marko. And forward. Who is the best forward, Marko?
Nick Suzuki right now.
All right. Why you want to trade Nick Suzuki? because you
depends
want
what
to
I'm getting.
get, he has the best value for next game. Bring something in return.
It depends what it is.
The difference being
That's the point. You have your
Suzuki hasn't
best
finished
players,
growing.
and you want to trade your best position forward. Why not to trade Jacob Fuller? You're going to get
Coach,
maybe Askarov.
But Coach, your question from before, is Mike Matheson a number one NHL defenseman, or is Caden Gooley really an NHL number one defenseman?
He's
If
a
that's
first
the
pairing.
case,
Galen Coley is a first pairing NHL.
we'll see. We'll see.
He's a first pairing in NHL.
Right now,
I mean, he has to get to that, but he's close. He's close.
But bottom line, Coach, you can't keep everyone. You can't keep everyone.
I understand that. But you don't trade the best value when you're rebuilding to get.
No, but
you get out. You have no hold. Who is the number one candidate pairing defenseman with the Montreal Canadiens right now?
So it depends. Like, sorry, can you clarify your question?
No. But who is a candidate to become a first pairing defenseman with Montreal Canadiens?
In my opinion, Reinbacher.
Rebacker?
It's too early.
Yeah.
I see Mayu before Reinbacher, but
guys, like, you have to rank Reinbacher ahead of, like, Reinbacher is a 5th overall pick. Like, do you guys rank Gooley ahead of Reinbacher?
It's not matter 5th, 7th. Peter Forsberg scored 45 goals per year, draft 11 by the Washington Capitals. It's not. Don't worry about what he picked number 6, number 8, number 3. It's about how they become in the NHL at 23 years old, 24 years old. So for me, Cody is 16. Take Lane Hudson, 62 overall pick. If you redo the draft, he's maybe the top first round pick. He's on the first round overall. So for me, it's not about 16, 15. It's about what is the possibility of the over ice ceiling. I see right now for Montreal, 3 first pairing, first round.
Okay.
I see Hudson, Coley, and Rebacker. That's only 3 players can reach the first pairing. And I said they will be, but there are only 3 right there. We don't have anybody. Or the first one is really Lane Hudson could become a Ken Hughes in NHL. That's what he can be. On the Ken Coley is a mix of Slavin and NHL for me, right? And Anifin could be that way. Is it Anifin a type of player like that? I don't know. Rebacker, this is where we don't know yet. We don't have enough information for him. Never played in North America. And he struggled last year, so I'm really concerned about him. I see more at number 3 defenseman right now on my top. So that's it. The rest we get, guys, not Mayu, not Jacky, not Strubble, not Harris. The rest we don't have. That's the reason you keep a Madison around him. It will keep your urgency. If you need something, if one's got hurt, you have Madison. Experience-wise, 30 years old. Play in Montreal, is a French Canadian where he is really happy to play in Montreal. He had no complaining about this. He's a great leader inside the Montreal Canadian team. You get him under $5 million for a period of 2-3 years. And the 2-3 years signed in 25, 26, that will bring you at 28, 29, where the Montreal Canadiens are going to be at the top of who they are with all the new prospects they have. That's not called maybe they have a defenseman like we have a prospect, or maybe a defenseman they can get at some point. That's my point behind it.
So
yeah, they will. But you go ahead.
Maybe
Marko. I'll add something later. Yeah.
So here's my last point on it, and then I have to jump here soon. What if? And this, I don't know how well this is going to go over, but remember when we weren't sure if Montreal was going to draft a forward or not, when we didn't know Demidov was going to be available, and we were talking about Bouillon, right? And about, is Bouillon potentially, would he be the best prospect in the Montreal Canadiens defensive pipeline if they were have drafted Bouillon or even Dickinson, right? So
yeah, close.
Does that mean that, guys, like, we just don't have a number one defenseman in our pipeline? We have a lot of depth, a lot of really good prospects. We just don't have a number one defenseman and if you're going to, like, in terms of a template of building a Stanley Cup winning team, you need a stud defenseman, right? Montreal just doesn't maybe have one. Maybe they do. Maybe Reinbacher will turn out to be one. Maybe Mayu will be one. Maybe Goulet will be one. But it's not 100% slam dunk. Maybe Montreal will need to trade not only for another top six, but maybe they'll need to get a top pair defenseman.
Yeah, well, that could happen this year, right? If they finish,
Yeah.
let's say, in the bottom 7 or 8 of the league, you can. There's nothing wrong, especially if through a trade you get a top 6 player. If you trade Matheson, see the example you gave earlier, Coach, about Suzuki and Anderson and Matheson are totally different. With Suzuki, yes, he's your best player, but I don't think he's reached this cap in terms of what he can offer still. Like his ceiling is still to be determined, I think. With Matheson, like I said earlier, I'd be hugely, hugely surprised if he can reproduce the kind of year that he did again this year. So now he becomes that asset to you where you have to sit back and you have to, again, I'm not saying you give him away and you get a third in return or even a second. But if there's a team that is desperate for that kind of a offensive minded defenseman on their team that they feel will bring them to the next level to winning the cup, and they're willing to give you, a key player, either forward or it could be at defense or whatever the case might be, you have to sell high, and because he's not gonna be at that same level in 2 or 3 years down the road. I think that was what the point is. Obviously, his value in terms of being a mentor, being a peer, and helping out the youth is, you're absolutely right about that. It's invaluable. But I think you can get that through many different defensemen that are around the league that you can get even at a cheaper price tag, because they're not going to produce as much offensively, but they're good team players, and they're players that can bring a younger defenseman along with them along the way. So again, I'm still of the mind, if you get a great offer for Matheson, you have to entertain it.
And guys, like I really, really like Jimbo's comment here. I think it's so true, and we've talked about it more on the forward group, but I think it's the same thing. Basically saying that why do we focus so much on a number one, like a team, especially hockey, right? It's a sum of all its parts. And we've talked about how Montreal, if they're going to be successful, they don't have a generational player like a McDavid or a Matthews or whoever you want to, McKinnon or whatever, right? So you're going to have to win with a team that's deep, and that comes after you line after line after line, kind of like the Carolina Hurricanes, previous to what what we're going to see them be next year, right? So I think that's totally true, and it kind of aligns with the point I was making earlier that you don't need to have a defenseman playing 28 minutes a game in order to be successful. So if you're going to trade Matheson, you don't need to necessarily find someone that's going to play his exact same minutes and play the exact same role. And I think earlier somebody in the chat said that, because you know what? Montreal was bottom 5 last year. Matheson was minus 24. So listen, like I respect Mike Matheson. He's a great skater. He's a great puck mover. He's a good hockey player, right? But let's not fall in love too much with our own guys here. We're a bottom 5 team in the NHL. There's lots of room to improve, and you're going to have to give in order to get back. So, very interesting point. But I agree. Like,
But
we get really.
I would add though, Marco, as much as that makes a lot of sense, and same thing with Jimbo. Um, I would say that you do need an elite defenseman. It doesn't necessarily have to be offensive, but a guy that'll give you great opportunities on the power play, can carry the puck out of their own zone. Like you look at a lot of the teams that have been going far in the playoffs over the last X amount of years, and they all have a solid defenseman on their team, a Makar or a Hughes, or you can go on and on in terms of that qualification. There has to be at least one guy that sort of is the alpha of the pack.
When you do the exercise we just did, right, you can realize we don't have a defenseman like Roman Huzi. We don't have a defenseman like Victor Ekman. We don't have those kind of big. The only one could become close, and he's
Hudson.
a number one defenseman, is a Vancouver Canuck, is Quinn Hughes, is Luke Hudson.
Yeah.
Whatever you're thinking about Rebecca, Mayu, and Coley, I don't see those players to be like those kind of Roman Ozzy or Edmund I was just talking about. But if you look about the Florida Panthers, they don't have Roman Ozzy. They don't have Victor Edmund. They don't have a big defenseman. They have a group of defensemen complete together. Gustav
Ekblad, first
Forsling,
overall pick, though, Coach.
complete
Ekblad,
Ekblad.
first
Hey,
overall.
yeah. I mean, his injuries have slowed him down a little bit. I'll agree with that. But I mean, Ekblad was their number one defenseman.
He is number one defenseman. Do you consider him on the top best 20 defensemen in NHL?
Not in the last couple
Not
of seasons, no, but he was.
right.
There were some seasons where
He
he was
never reached
operating.
that level, Marko. The time he was good on offensive, he was poorly bad on the defensive zone coverage when he played with Madison
And actually,
or played with Wigard. Remember
and
those
that brings
years?
up a
He get
yeah, Coach. That
on
brings
the
up a
side.
good point.
What?
It brings up a good point because you can let's say, I mean, we know what Hughes has done, obviously, and some of the other key player defensemen like that. But it's also important how you insulate those players, right? You have a Hudson, it's not going to be him alone. It's who is he paired up with, and does that player that complements him, does he insulate him well? And if that's the case, then that gives him more ice time. It gives him more space on the ice to be more creative. Covers up for him if he makes a mistake defensively. And I think that that's important. Whereas what we've seen in the last couple of years is that insulation with the Florida defensemen. Like they all complement each other nicely. And as Marko pointed out earlier, you don't see one of Florida's defensemen come out and play 8 minutes in the game. I think they're pretty evenly balanced out, especially when we saw Uyghur leave in that big trade with Huberdeau to Calgary. It forced them to go in that direction.
You think
Yeah,
about,
would you rather?
I don't know if you mentioned it, Enortap. If you did, I apologize, Marko, before. Look about Vegas. There are 6 defensemen,
All right.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Perengelo is a great defenseman, right? He burns
Sure.
a lot of minutes, but offensively, it's not like he's not a guy carrying the puck all the way back and forth. I think his year with
No.
Vegas is not the same kind of player he was with the Blue St. Louis when they won the Stanley Cup in 2018. But look about beside him. You have McNabb, you have Martinez, you have Theodore, and then they have a White Cloud at the back, and they have a Nicolas Hage. All big size, but they was not like the best defensemen, but they play as a group together. And
As
that's
a
what
group,
I
right.
feel the Montreal Canadiens are going to targeting that kind of the team together. And said that, Marko, I think one thing, defensemen don't make a lot of money. I don't see any Montreal Canadian right now can make more than $7 million at long term right now. I don't see that. It will be 6-5-7, 6-5-7. That would keep them better to have those players to play together on the group 4 on that kind
That's
of no
yeah,
doubt
that
in
was
my
going to be
mind, Hudson, Rebecca, Coley, and Mayu are my top 4 right now. Can we have slip under the 1? We'll see with the time. We don't talk about Konishav. We don't talk about Engstrom yet. 2 players, I believe, are better, in my opinion, over Engstrom Strobel. The time it would tell us. But again, we don't have a top right now. Number 1 can make a big difference, like control the game all the way. For me, it's only Lane Hudson. He's unicorn. Nobody play like him. You never see a player like him in NHL. You can say that he's small. You never see that. Remind me a lot when Ken McCall show up. Ken McCall, for many years, the last player that Ken McCall dominated like that, yeah, Lindstrom. But Lindstrom was not a prototype of Ken McCall. Lindstrom was complete, a perfect defenseman on the 3 zone, right? But he was not the one carrying the puck all the way back and forth and play the same side. You have to go all the way to Paul Caulfield or Scott Niedermayer to remember a guy like Ken McCall. But Ken McCall changed the position of defenseman in NHL. And again, you get Adam Fox. I think that's what Lane Hudson can become. Unique, different. By the time we tell us, honestly, he's going to be that kind of player.
Whoa. Wow, Coach. Okay, well, I don't know. You might. How's the Kool-Aid? Like, it might be spiked a little bit. So, listen, we all love Lane Hudson, right? But you can't use the Makar. You can't use the Makar comparison.
Now say he's going to be like McCall. Why he changed the game. what McCall did. Hudson can do the same thing because he's a unicorn. It's fun players. I don't say he's going to play
Yeah,
at the start like a Norris Trophy. My point
I
is,
don't know if
Lane Hudson. Which player in NHL look like Lane Hudson?
why do you keep, well, listen, like he's like you said, there's a couple of like players that of smaller defensemen that can dance the puck around. So you've already mentioned Quinn Hughes. You can say that there's so the problem is with Lane Hudson, coach, is that if that's the like he's going to need to bring a B game, right? I think we're all really confident that he's going to really do super well in the power play. If he can start in offensive zone situations, then that's really going to be good. So what we need to see from Hudson, if you want to call him a unicorn and for him to have that kind of impact in the game, he's going to need to prove that he can defend and play an all-around game. If he's going to be on the ice 20 plus minutes a night, he's going to need to have a B game. So we hope that's the case. If he's able to do that, then I agree. Then now we're talking about something pretty special, but we're going to need to see how kind of that plays out. Last point I wanted to make.
Sorry, go ahead.
That I really need to jump off, guys, is similar to how we were talking about how we're all excited about how, in a way, it's almost positive that we don't have a McDavid and a Matthews that are taking up such a high percentage of the cap. Similar to what Coach was saying, right? Like if you can have really good set of defensemen, but you don't have one or two that are eating up $8 to $10 million a year, then I think you're in a good position, right? Like I really like the model of building a team that has depth, because let's say your top pairing defenseman goes out, then it's more conceivable that you can replace that guy with somebody that's a little bit more comparable. And if you keep doing good drafts, then you're always going to have somebody that's can come in and plug a hole on your bottom pair if you have issues like that, right? So, again, it's in a way it's not going to be. I think it's important to have a really strong defense. And most NHL teams that win the cup, like you said, Peter Angelo, I think is the lowest caliber of defenseman you can have as your number one to be really successful and win a Stanley Cup. So we'll see if Montreal has somebody that at a Peter Angelo type level. Peter Angelo is going to be a Hall of Fame player, guys. So
it's funny you talk about this. He has some rumors that he would be borderline. The only thing helping him, Marko, is he won the 2 Stanley Cup. I just read this like 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Yeah, I heard
they
it.
compare him with other Hall of Famer, and it was said that they expect him to be, but it's not like a guarantee like any other defenseman. But again, in my opinion, Perangelo, he has everything as a dream defenseman. He has the size, he's physical, he played all 3 nights. If you have a slap shot, I could consider him like a little bit like a Shea Weber.
Well, they're different kind of players, but yeah,
what a night!
Shea Weber's there.
What a night! Hot steak night at the Hockey Nation tonight. A lot of great comments in the chat. Let's keep move on, guys. It's amazing what we did. We delivered at 2 hours at Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens fans, Mr. Enortap, Marko, are hungry talking about the team. And when we bring some kind of subject like we did tonight, they get more excited. And that's a great fire to see the chat moving up and down, everything like that. So what a great night. It was a pleasure to have both of you. We're going to be back Wednesday night for the Christmas in July with the Hockey Nation Show. It's all about the prediction of the Montreal Canadiens going happening Wednesday. We have another show between Monday and Tuesday. We're still waiting for Michael Demidov to join me live at some point. And this is the last week of for us to have only 2 or 3 shows. We are back normal the following week. It's going to have a minimum at 4 shows following year after the following week. And then we're going to move on to August. And now August, we have Gregory Hamel join the team now as a co-host. We have Frank's Bernard is going to join the team as a co-host. Michael Devaney is going to have 2 shows per month with us. And more people is going to join the upcoming season of the Hockey Nation Show. Habs Nation, before we leave, I want to remind you, we're going to finish the show on a fun way tonight. 1 year ago, we lost one of the best friends of the Hockey Nation Show, Mr. André Robert Drouin passed away July 14, 15. I cannot remember. And obviously, with the lack of the show we do right now, we try to celebrate André Robert, and then I'm going to finish the show with this video. So I want to make it this fun way. And before that, you have the last word, Mr. Marko, and then followed by Enortap. And I can wait for all of you to see you next time. All the moderators, thanks so much. All the people in the chat, thank you. Don't forget to click on the like. Watch my ad daily news every day. And don't forget the poll question. And we are in the right direction because the people like Enortap and Marko deliver time and great support of the channel. So both of you, we are really grateful and thankful. Not only me, but people in the chat to have you with me every night, Wednesday or Sunday night. So Marko, you are the next one.
Great show, Coach. Thanks for everybody joining in the chat. Like lots of great chat tonight. So thanks for joining us. Grosse pensée pour André. Godspeed, my friend.
Thanks so much. Enortap.
All our thoughts and prayers with Andre and his family. And folks, stay tuned. I know Coach has been working on a lot of things for the upcoming year, and some are going to be very, very exciting. We have some great guests, as he's brought up already, but there's other things in the works that right now we haven't spoken about, but we're working very, very hard to try to get that to Hockey Nation and making it a bigger channel. But you guys are the key to everything, and we appreciate you coming and joining us in our conversations and arguments sometimes, but it's all in good fun and in producing a better Montreal Canadiens hockey team.
Thanks. Well done, everybody. I will see you next time. Until next time, everybody, have an amazing, great night and amazing, great week. I will see you next Wednesday night.